Welcome to Newstead Wood Sixth Form Open Evening. My name is Mr Bournat. I'm the head of Sixth Form. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our virtual event this evening. Thank you for taking the time on a cold and dreary evening to dial into this live Q&A session. Do remember to take the time to watch the excellent videos on our designated YouTube channel showcasing the best of Newstead Wood Sixth Form. These are now permanently available for you to watch at your leisure. We also have a virtual tour available on the website, including the welcome from our head teacher, Alan Blount, and also a prospectus and a link to admissions information. So welcome to our Sixth Form evening. I'm going to speak to you for a moment and then I'll start addressing some frequently asked questions, and then we'll go through some questions and answers. I've worked at Newstead for 7 years now. 5 of those as Deputy Head of Sixth Form, and my first year as Head of Sixth last year was very exciting for many reasons, not just the challenges of meeting and coping with the challenges of COVID-19, but for reasons to do with the health of our Sixth Form. With regards to those coming into our Sixth Form in Year 12, we've reached the capacity of 220 students with our current Year 12, and that makes up roughly half internally from Newstead Year 11s, and then 100 new entrants from other schools. We received over 800 applications last year. This is a sign of our status as a Sixth Form destination of choice. Guided by the ambition of myself and our head teacher, Mr Blount, we're seeing excellent destinations for those leaving our Sixth Form at the end of Year 13. We saw impressive numbers of students attain places at Cambridge and at Oxford, and gaining places on courses like law, medicine, veterinary and dentistry. We also had students achieve places on highly sought after degree apprenticeships at firms like Deloitte and at JP Morgan in London. So excellent destinations for our leavers. Attendance in our Sixth Form lessons is currently over 98%, which is exceptional for a Sixth Form of our size, and this is down to the fact that our students share our ambition and they want to be here. We do have high expectations, but we're also keen to support our students through the transition from GCSEs into Sixth Form, and later in Year 13 to talk to them through their UCAS choices and their decisions about future destinations. Sixth Form certainly requires a lot of support, a lot of cajoling and a lot of guidance. We have a designated careers counsellor attached to the Sixth Form, Mrs Brown, and there's a programme of careers guidance and information you can find out about on her video, which is available on the YouTube channel. In terms of wider support, we also have an established pastoral team. We have a school counsellor, a student support office, and we now have designated heads of year as well. So we have Miss Harvey, who looks after Year 12, and we have a newly appointed head of Year 13, Mr Patel. Essentially, the message around support at Newstead is that students here will be surrounded by a support structure of expert staff who will cater for all of their academic, pastoral and careers needs. Newstead Sixth Form is an inclusive community, more diverse than other schools I've taught at in central London. I believe it really does allow students to become the best that they can be, with students from a range of backgrounds and from diverse parts of London. We're proud of our multicultural student body. They themselves celebrate this diversity in the regular meetings of Afro-Caribbean Society, who've put together not only Black History Month assemblies, but have put together journals addressing issues around Black Lives Matter. We have GSA Pride Society, who run awareness weeks and put together resources for PSHE. And we have various other enrichment activities looking into a range of different spaces, including things like Japanology as well. So this multicultural enrichment continues to take place even now, despite often having to be virtual. It really is embedded within the school week and within the Sixth Form psyche. As part of this enrichment programme, we also have a lot of clubs and societies whose interest is more academic. Law Society, we have 3 slightly different medic societies. We have a politics society, an economic society, music society. All of these are run by 12s, and presently that takes place within the year 12 bubble, but they do have some lower school outreach through videos, through competitions. All of this being excellent information to use for future personal statements. At Newstead Sixth Form, we recognise that students will find success in a variety of ways. Academic excellence is often mirrored in students' other activities, be that the cultural and enriching opportunities I've mentioned already, or in other ways. Sporting excellence is part of Newstead. We have current elite sports players in tennis, trampolining and swimming. They manage their studies alongside their sport. They liaise with us around key tournaments. We offer sport on a Wednesday afternoon in line with other schools, and have the capacity, once we're able to in the current climate, to put out sports teams in netball and football for both boys and for girls. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me speaking about the sixth form that I really do love working for. I hope you've been able to capture from this talk some of the enthusiasm I have for Newstead, and hope you can see that Newstead is an excellent sixth form and one that you would like to become part of in the future. I'm now going to run through some frequently asked questions around admissions. Because some of you will be using the admissions form that's on the website, I thought I would talk you through that process. Some students applying to our sixth form may not be in year 11, they may be in year 12. It is possible to apply if you're in year 12. We will take 95% year 11s. It is possible to apply if you're in year 12, but it is often we are limited on space. But if whilst we need predicted grades from your current head of year, it does say year 11, it can be ahead of year 12. Another question is around additional needs. Students will come to Newstead from a range of backgrounds and a variety of different needs. Many might not have these, but some do. It really is best that we have this information early on so we can put the supports in place in order to help you achieve the best at our sixth form. Many students will come to us asking about A levels. Should they take 3 A levels, 4 A levels or 5? At Newstead, most will start with 4. Either they are up for the challenge of 4 A levels, or because they're undecided and eventually they want to drop to 3, but they haven't quite made up their mind. It is quite early to be asking students in year 11 to make choices when you haven't even taken your GCSEs yet. And you've got quite a long way of year 11 to go. So my recommendation would be to make your choice as early as you can. It helps with timetabling. It helps you secure your place on our more competitive courses, especially in STEM. If you're undecided over the 3, you're certainly welcome to put 4. Some students want to take 5. You can do that. Will just fill up your timetable. You won't have very much free space at all during the week. You will have a couple of studies. My recommendation, if you're looking to stand out for university, is not necessarily to take more than 3 A levels. Universities really are just looking for 3 A levels. The additional qualification to consider is the EPQ. This is something that Russell Group universities appreciate. They will often offer 1 grade below the typical entry criteria if you have a good score on your EPQ. The EPQ that we run here at Newstead runs from January to January. Mr Lewis runs the EPQ, and that is something that once you've settled into Newstead and you've secured the A levels that you want to take, once you're coming to the end of your first term, you can make a decision around your EPQ. Additional A levels or AS levels, 4 A levels, 5 A levels, or taking AS levels, they're really for those who need the challenge, and some students will, or for students who have a passion that they feel unready to give up just yet. So we can offer this. We're just essentially very flexible. I appreciate it's early for year 11 students to make up their minds about A-level courses. Please don't overly concern yourself. It's best to try to get it right when you apply, it helps us with timetabling, but if you change your mind later, then you can just email in the change, and that would be either to office@newsteadwood.co.uk or to Miss Roberts, who many of you have been liaising with, and again, her email address is on the website. The subjects that you can see on the application form are all the possible subjects that we could offer next year. We do require a minimum number to run subjects. For example, drama requires 4 students because of the group element in the coursework. So it does vary between subjects. If you're thinking of taking a minority subject, do put it down, but then do consider putting down extra options to indicate preference. It might be that you choose 4. If you're going to choose drama and you want to do 3, you might put in a 4th just to indicate, in case drama is something we don't offer. That can be quite a helpful thing to do. The EPQ is something that comes up quite regularly. What is this? Should I do it? Half of the students here at Newstead will take the EPQ. It's a really excellent qualification. It's an independent research unit where you're writing an essay and you're doing your own research. You'll be given a staff mentor to help you through the process, to complete your research, to draft your essays. It really is a chance to specialise in a non-A-level study area. So especially if you're considering law or medicine, but likewise, it might be that you're considering engineering, or any other topic really that isn't so closely covered at A-level. It's a chance to show some specialism and specialist interest. But it can also be to look at something outside of your curriculum area. So it might be that there's a particular Tudor queen that you're interested to look at, which you don't cover in History A-level. And again, it's a chance to sort of show your specialism and your expertise in that area. Having mentored various students through the EPQ, I really would recommend it. When Russell Group universities recognise it as a good qualification to have and will lower their entry criteria if you have a good EPQ, I think it really is a relevant piece of something to do during sixth form. You will be asked in your application form to include your GCSE predicted grades. So do send them. If you don't have predicted grades, then please include your latest report, but we do need grades as part of your application. And the last thing that I have here is that there is no preference for internals. It's a fair process. The window for application is between now and the deadline. It starts today and the deadline is on the website. And so there's a few months now for you to make your application. And that sums up my speech for this evening. And now I'm going to turn to live questions and answers. Maybe before we do that, if anyone, either of Mr Blount or Miss Sword, would like to chip in with anything before we get onto the question and answers, now would be a good time.
No, we're happy for you to do the talking, Mr Bournat. We're busy reading the questions.
Okay, is there anything coming in that I can answer?
There's one question on a catchment area. Do we have a catchment area? And I think Mr Lewis has answered that with no, we don't. We do have students that travel quite a long way, some of them for the sixth form. We've got some at the moment from as far away as Ashford, I think.
Yeah, we do have students who do travel a long way. One of the privileges in sixth form is that you can have late entry in the morning or early exit if you're free, if you don't have a study and you don't have a lesson and it's just private study. And those students who do live a long way away, we will talk to them about having this privilege to help them manage their time. Often, I mean, the students I've offered that to this year are actually all busy working in the library and don't want to leave school. So, but for those of you who are considering applying from further away, we have systems in place to help accommodate, juggling your time and your commute.
Yeah. I mean, certainly you're right. The library seems busy even into the early evening most days.
Mr Bournat, I wonder if you would like to mention a little bit about student leadership opportunities within the sixth form and opportunities for students to take on elected roles.
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, I think you'll find that there's far more detail on this. I will go through quickly on this. There's a video from Miss Harvey, the head of Year 12, and one of the things she does is talk about some of the enrichment opportunities. But at the moment in the school calendar here at Newstead, what we've got going on is part of the student leadership changeover. So we have various different roles. The first and sort of highest priority is the head student team. Now we have historically we've always had a small number of head students, but we made a decision a number of years ago to widen the group to 6 students. The reason behind that is to try and improve diversity. We have boys, we have girls, we have people from different cultures and backgrounds, and having just 1 or 2 students often leaves many people feeling underrepresented by the head student team. So we have 6 head students. They will meet regularly with Mr Blount. They will meet weekly with the head of Year 13, and really what they are there as any elected student leader to liaise with the senior leadership team at school, with the staff, in order to try to put forward policies and ideas that the students want. It really is just a really good opportunity for public speaking. It's a good opportunity to learn how to negotiate and compromise with some senior members of staff, and just to develop leadership and teamwork skills. So we have our head student team. There's quite a difficult process, really. It's quite challenging. There's public speaking involved. You have to speak to all of the students in the school. Normally that's through assembly. This year it's been through virtual videos that have been set round at form time. But you also have there's an election, a school election. So we teach students about democracy through this process, and people will vote for their favoured candidate. And then beyond that as well, and again, we think about head students who might be applying for the very top universities. They go through quite a challenging interview with Mr Blount and other senior members of staff. And again, that's to help them select the right candidates for head student, but also to prepare them for the sorts of challenges they will face as head students in their future decisions. But it doesn't just come down to 6 people. We also have clubs and society leaders, and that's something I've talked about earlier. This is often where students get to have some fun at lunchtime, after school, and we had events over lockdown which were run virtually, and this is an opportunity for students passionate about a particular area or interested academically in a particular area to really explore those interests, and that can be liaising with peers in their own year group, or even with younger students. We've got Year 7 competitions, for example, that are being organised by Year 12s. We also have a house system. This is something that many of you will probably, as Year 11s, have fallen slightly out of love with now that you're not in Year 7, 8 or 9. But as we get into the sixth form, trying to foster a sense of community is something that the head student, the house captains are really responsible for. So there are three house captains for each of our 6 houses, and each of you, when you come into our sixth form, will be in a house. And again, you're sort of driving the charity, the volunteering, the sport, and all those sorts of, and also some academic competitions. We've had maths quizzes being run, and that's something the house team will be working together for. We also have something used to called student subject leaders, and so think of those a bit like academic prefects. If you aim to study a particular subject, say for example economics at university, you might want to become the economics student subject leader. You will do things like promote the subject, and you'll see in the videos that we've got on the YouTube channel, all of those students talking to you in those videos are student subject leaders. So they're taking responsibility for the subject, for promoting it, encouraging people to study it, just really sort of sharing their love within the Newstead community for the subject, and also trying to galvanise those outside to come here to study those subjects. But they'll do other things as well. So by being a subject leader, you will be the first port of call. If someone is struggling in your subject, you will be nominated as a peer mentor to help them through. So it's not just about showing your love and passion for the subject, but it's also about giving something back in very many ways, like the head students, like the house captains. Our sixth form student leaders are all one of their key drives will be to give something back to our sixth form. I always say, we're really not a sixth form where you come here and just attend lessons. We're not a college. We are a sixth form. We're a grammar school. We are after students who are passionate, who really love their subjects and also love the place, the school, and want to give something back to it. So a subject leader, a house captain, a head student, they could be one moment talking to a year 7, another moment talking to Miss Sword, and another moment they could be talking to their peers. And so these are really excellent opportunities to get involved in developing leadership, which I think going into what all of you are going to be leaving sixth form to go somewhere, university, but other options as well, art foundations and gap years, but degree apprenticeships also on the cards. Leadership, teamwork, communication, you want to develop these. There are opportunities to develop those within your A-level studies, but there's a lot more that you can do to develop these, and student leadership is one of them. I would also recommend that people check out the careers and work experience video, because I think those sorts of skills are also those sort of softer skills that are kind of missing from the A-level syllabus around entrepreneurship and around business and commercial acumen. Those sorts of ideas are something you need to develop and practice over sixth form. So do have a look at that video from Mrs. Brown.
Mr Bournat, I'm just thinking about some of the enrichment opportunities. Obviously, Mr Blount runs our medics, dentists and vet society. I'm thinking about things like the Newstead MBA and some of the other enrichment opportunities, the STEP maths and things. Are you able to just expand a little bit more on some of those opportunities? Yes. Beyond the A-level curriculum? Okay,
so all year 12s will take part on a Wednesday in period 5 in an enrichment programme, and that's still running despite the restrictions we're currently facing. So we have students who are taking part in the Oxbridge programme. Again, there's an Oxbridge video that's been provided, so do have a look at that video. But that's a 6-week course preparing you for everything from interviews to the additional tests that you'll have to be taking. And if Oxbridge is something you're interested in, we also have mock exam week. That's coming up actually. Ahead of the Oxbridge tests, well, that's just happened, and the Oxbridge tests are coming up, the additional tests that people are taking. And I think being aware that it's not just Oxbridge that you require these additional tests for is something. So Warwick, for example, Imperial College London, LSE, they're starting to ask for these additional tests. It seems that's the way it's going. So the Oxbridge 6-week course on a Wednesday afternoon is something I'd recommend to a lot of year 12. And that's why it is a 6-week course. Try and make it accessible. Whilst we are a grammar school and we're selective, we're not elitist. We want everyone to sort of have opportunities to excel. So there's a lot of Oxbridge support provided. Wednesday period 5, you can take sports. One of the other options is the additional STEP papers, the additional maths support. Maths is an area where if you're trying to get into university with maths, typically you will have some sort of additional paper to take, especially if you're going to one of the universities that typically Newstead students are looking to go to. So we provide that in-house. There's, we have that provision here, and again that's open to maths students. Alongside that, we have the MDV enrichment programme. That's actually run by Mr Blount, former biology teacher himself. So Mr Blount again will talk students through additional testing questions to do with things like the BMAT and the UCAT, but also runs a mean interview process as well, and takes part, and the MDV sort of involvement and support includes a mock interview sort of series of practices that take place later this month. In terms of enrichment, we also have the Friday period 2 lecture. At the moment, we can't meet in the hall, so this is a weekly lecture that's emailed out. In year 12, how does that run? So initially, it starts with some sort of PSHE material. People are entering into sixth form. It's a change in your way of life. You're suddenly a sixth former. You're not 16 years old anymore. You're not at year 11. and we want to treat you like adults, but we need to give you education around things like sex and drugs, and that's a nice way to start you settling into sixth form. But we then move through some sort of more cultural lectures over the Christmas period. So we'll provide lectures on literature and poetry, culture, the arts, latest developments in science and medicine, in order just to enrich people's understanding. You can become quite siloed in your A-level studies. So to have this kind of broader curriculum is something that a lot of universities will be looking for. So having had some PSHEings and then some cultural lectures towards this the last element, the last term of year 12, you start to have the UCAS support. So there will be personal statement lectures and lectures on finance and managing a budget, choosing a university, choosing a course, and just helping you with the whole sort of UCAS process. We also have available, and these are often slightly more niche, and some of these lectures won't, at this time, we start having to segment who we're directing these to. There'll be, some of you will be looking for an art foundation course. We have someone last year go to the Royal College of Music. And so talking about things like conservatoires and foundation courses is something that we'll have to share at that time. We also have people coming in to run, applying for medicine, applying for dentistry, applying for veterinary sort of lectures. And again, these would be shared, typically we share those through the MDV Society. We actually contact the chair, the student chair, and say, you need to share this with everyone in MDV. So there's always a reason. One of the key reasons really to be part of a society is that you will get additional information. So it's not just that meeting once a week. We know who the chairs are, so we will be sending them. If it's to do with politics, it'll go to Politics Society, and the student chair will be responsible for sharing that. So there's an awful lot of enrichment going on. As I say, there is a video from Miss Harvey outlining more of this that I haven't been able to think of off the cuff, and there's an Oxbridge video as well from Mrs Smith, which talks about all of the Oxbridge support that's available. Was anything else? Oh, the 7 billion ideas. So we do have entrepreneurial education is something that's very much in vogue at the moment, trying to encourage the sort of skills that you'll need in the working world. And universities have started this because they're realizing they're dropping graduates with their bachelors in humanities or science, but they haven't really prepared them for the world of work. And unless they've done very good work experience during the summer holidays of their university study, they can often enter the world of work. Obviously you have graduate training programs, but there's a massive gap between the sort of education you're receiving, the academic education you receive at school and university, and then the sort of skills that you need for the working world. So entrepreneurial education is something that's very much Newstead sort of believes in. We have a company that we work with, a partner, 7 billion ideas, and they are running an entrepreneurial day for year 12 on it's on the 12th of November. It's is that the
that's right, yeah,
that's the right day. So they're running a workshop, all-day workshop, where you work with real companies looking for real solutions to real problems. And this is part of an MBA program Newstead's put together that students can actually trace from year 7 all the way to year 12. If you're new to if you're new to the school in year 12, it doesn't mean you can't take part. Of course you can, and you still get accredited for what you do. But it's also something that people can follow through from the lower years if they are coming from Newstead. And it is, I mean, talking to Mr Blount, who was present at the previous one last year, the sorts of things that students were coming up with really were fantastic. So these latent skills, you know, that Newstead students have, get the chance to really flourish. Things like teamwork and communication, leadership, but also things like creativity, showing initiative, project managing. Those sorts of skills get a chance to be used when normally they're not part of your A-level study.
I have to say, Mr Bournat, I've been really impressed with how the students have taken advantage of all the virtual things on offer. So despite the restrictions, the virtual work experience that students did and the virtual tours of, for example, the White House and some of the things that the sixth form have done.
And the art exhibitions, yeah.
The art exhibition.
Yeah, so that, I mean, a lot of those things are things that heads of department will be sharing. So I know that Mrs. Faith in Art has been sharing a lot of exhibitions, which whilst museums and galleries were closed, people were still able to access some amazing exhibitions over the lockdown period and even now. And I think those sorts of opportunities will remain part of what we do going forward, regardless of what the restrictions are. In terms of virtual work experience, it's so much more accessible for everyone, and I think businesses are realizing this, that rather than taking on a couple of work experience students and then leaving out a whole host of people who applied for the position, by offering virtual work experience, more can be achieved with the students. A real program can be put together. There's no more filing and there's no more making cups of tea. People really are learning skills, and if this is something that you're sort of interested in, there are people like Bright Network that we work with who provide these opportunities, and in fact the people at Bright Network are former Newstead students. So they often will share things with me on LinkedIn around virtual work experience, and we've had year 12s already. So we're less than a month in. So this was back in the earlier part of October, who were establishing links with whether it was virtual work experience, also sort of virtual support networks, really, to do with entry into law for disadvantaged students and for minority ethnic students. So there's a lot of opportunities now, and the virtual world has kind of opened up for us in terms of work experience, in terms of industry exposure, so getting awareness of industries like law and medicine, taster days. Just a few days ago, we had a virtual meeting where a doctor was speaking to our medic society, but because it was virtual, and it had to be after work. It had to be after work for this doctor, but because it was virtual, the year 7s could even dial in, let alone the year 12s. Everyone was able to access it because although everyone's at home and no one can stay till 8 or 9 o'clock to necessarily talk to a doctor, that's the only time they're free. Because of the virtual world, not only was it able to be shared with students, but it was able to be videoed so that students can now access these as well. Part of the virtual world has made its way into our enrichment, but it's also part of what we do in terms of teaching and learning. So lessons are now routinely recorded for viewing later and for sharing. So it's not just if you're self-isolating that you're accessing online lessons. Students are getting these if they're ill, or if they're on a trip, or they are at the doctor's. So the whole virtual experience at Newstead means that new students can access their work and resources on Show My Homework. So the PowerPoints, the Word documents, all of the resources for lessons are shared on Show My Homework, and that's for lessons, not just for homework. So you can go back to those as well after lessons if you've been in them, or you can access them if you haven't been in the lesson. And it is becoming a regular part of the teaching world, that setting up a lesson and just pressing record so that students can watch a live stream lesson. That really is just becoming the new norm. I mean, teachers are taking some time, students are taking some time to adjust to these new ways of learning. But what we've been able to achieve in the last 6 months has really been incredible. And I think students are really engaging with it. They're not falling behind. Our students are not behind, because from day one we've been able to provide the virtual learning experience, which is in many ways better, because again, with a filmed lesson, students can watch that lesson over and over again. They can access the resources themselves. They can even, and I had emails, sir, at 9 minutes into the lesson you said something, I didn't get it, what did you mean? And even I was able to rewatch the video to find out what I was talking about, because it's on. So I think that's become a really good part of what we provide at Newstead, and something in the current climate we all need to be aware of. We don't know what's around the corner. We're going into a second lockdown, and I think when you're making a choice around what sixth form you're going to, you do need to think about what is being provided virtually as well as in person as well.
Thank you, Mr Bournat. I think Mr Blount and Mr Lewis are busily answering questions as they come up. The only other thing I was thinking was the really exciting bridging units that come out before students join us.
Yes, the bridging units. So you've done your GCSEs, You think it's all over, but it's not. You would have chosen some A-levels courses to study at Newstead, and we will send you some bridging work to do over the summer. What that does, it introduces you to what you're going to be studying first in that subject in September. So it's a way of easing the transition, and it's especially useful if you're choosing a subject like psychology or like politics that you may not have studied lower down in school, and also it's useful if you're sort of moving from something, say, like double award science to specifically physics. So it also just sort of bridges the gap between the GCSE way of learning, which is often around knowledge recall, which is obviously still very important at A-level, but it asks you to do things like applying the knowledge, which is maybe something that's a little new to some ways of learning if you're moving from GCSE to A-level. So it eases you in with some information around the first topics that you'll be looking at, but it's also something you'll be asked to produce a piece of work on. So we'll have also some sort of early assessment then information on you when you start, whether it's an essay in a humanities subject, whether it is some short answer questions that you've done in other subjects. It really depends on the subject, but you'll be given tailored and specific work to do, which has a point. The point is to make you more comfortable with that subject on the first day. And so students have found it sort of really useful. It also gives them that taste of, do I really want to do this? It's new. I haven't studied classics, for example, haven't studied art history or statistics. Do I want to study this? And so the bridging unit will give you a flavour of what you're going to be doing come September. So it's useful for the students. It keeps you busy over the summer and out of mischief. It helps our staff get to know you from the off. They already have a piece of work from you. You're submitting work, you're getting feedback, and all of that is building rapport, which is so important when it comes to things in the future where you're going to rely on staff for references. So you're building that relationship from the very beginning with your own research, your own piece of work, and you're starting to see what an A-level study might look like in that subject. You'll have it in every subject. There's no subject that doesn't have a bridging unit. You will have an assessment in every bridging unit, and it will relate to what you're studying first in year 12. So it really is a useful piece of information. They normally take 5 hours, so it's a day's worth of work really over the summer holidays that you might be asked to do. But most successful students, and I teach politics and I teach RPE, the successful students are the ones who read around it, who take their time with the bridging unit and produce something they're really proud of as an essay, and I teach essay subjects. So that's something as well, is that if you haven't got the passion to do the reading over summer holidays and you're struggling to write the essay, then it gives you an indication that maybe it's the wrong subject. So bridging units are really useful. What you don't want to do is leave school in June and not come back till September. That's not a good idea, to have a break of that long, of 3 or 4 months where you're doing nothing. You need to keep in the routine of working, and you need to keep in the routine of writing and thinking and being creative. So the bridging units have been well received by students. We've used them for a number of years now, and they're a very sensible way of sort of starting your year 12 studies. Are there any questions that are coming in that I can answer?
I think Mr Blount and Mr Lewis are doing a very brilliant job of answering those.
Good.
I was trying to think of all the extra things that we do, like the UK Maths Challenge, like the essay competition.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose some of you in year 12 are thinking through already what you might want to do at university, and you're sitting there, and I'm sure probably quite a few of you are thinking about doing medicine or dentistry or veterinary already. STEM is obviously the most highly sought after courses here at Newstead, and for example, this year no one got into any of our A-level courses in STEM with less than a 7, but most people had an 8. So these really are vibrant courses. And whether it's medicine or whether it's sitting there thinking Oxford or Cambridge, or whether you're sitting there and you don't have a clue about what you want to do, all of that is fine, because we prepare you to make your future application. So whether it's about developing skills through work experience, entrepreneurship, through student leadership, through sport, through enrichment, through the lecture, or whether it's making you try out new things and consider. So whether that's the lecture which asks you to watch something on poetry, maybe you're a scientist. Maybe we send you something about gap years or about apprenticeships. Maybe we send you something about Oxford, and actually you think, oh, this is something I might do. Everything we do in the sixth form is geared actually to you leaving successfully and happily, having enjoyed your time here. And so each student has their own needs, really, and there is an Oxbridge pathway, there is an MDV medicine pathway, but likewise there are pathways for everyone, and everyone will have meetings with me, meetings with Miss Harvey, the head of Year 12, meetings with Mr Patel, the head of Year 13, and everyone will have a one-to-one with our guidance counsellor, with Miss Brown, our careers guidance counsellor. So there will be an awful lot of talking to you about what you want from the future and how we're going to get there. One of the most interesting things I saw with a student was when they came to Newstead and they didn't know what they wanted to do. They managed just in passing to talk to Miss Sword and get put in touch with a former Newstead alumni who's a barrister. They were doing English. They're now studying law. And from a conversation with Miss Sword, and then later setting up Law Society in the middle of Year 12, and then doing their own EPQ into law, they went down that route. So I think there's an awful lot of enrichment, but an awful lot of opportunity to kind of explore what it is you want to do, and a lot of people to ask about how you're going to get there.
No, I think that using our alumni is really powerful, Mr. Bournat. And I think that the alumni that you're speaking of actually gave that student a mock interview for Oxford by using someone who'd been to that exact college who did that course, and they were able to recreate the interview exactly twice for her, once in the morning, then with feedback, and then again in the afternoon. And I think on the back of that, she got a very good offer. Yeah,
and a comprehensive feedback as well, which was fantastic. And what an opportunity as well to go up to Chambers in central London and do that. Yes, we are proud of our alumni network. And Year 12s, and one of the things I suppose to bear in mind is that some of the students I'm thinking about this year who've made the most of our alumni are external students, they're students new to Newstead, but they have just seized on the opportunity to make contact. I think possibly that's because the internal students already know maybe some of the former students, but I don't think that they've accessed, and they should be encouraged to access more, the alumni. And what's interesting, the alumni they're connecting with are not always people who were at Newstead from 7 to 13. They're people here for 12 and 13. Yeah. So whether you're a Newstead Year 11 or you're a Year 11 from another school, everyone's new to sixth form. And I think everyone should really try and seize that opportunity to have that sort of fresh start. What can you do that you haven't been doing in Year 11 in your current school? I think a lot of it will relate to careers, and a lot of it will relate to work experience, student leadership, but also really delving into your passionate interest. You're not studying 11, 10 GCSEs anymore, you're studying your 3 or 4 A levels. And so it really is a chance to sort of delve into those. So yes, alumni are very important. We have them back as speakers, we have them offering work experience, we have them offering interviews like you just mentioned, Miss Sword. And alumni also come back to do things like tutor as well. And we've had actually some of that's still going on virtually. We've got students at Cambridge who are former Newstead students who are getting in touch with our Year 13s to help them a couple of who had a difficult time over lockdown to help them catch up with their maths. So, you know, the time you spend here, I hope, you know, is a really enjoyable time, and it's a time that you really feel connected to the school community. You can give back when you're here, and you can give back when you go. And I think the fact that people do give back when they leave Newstead really does show how much Newstead means to them, and how they enjoyed being part of that community when they were here. Many of them were mentored before becoming mentors, and I think that sense of community and belonging drives the sort of importance of the alumni, that they want to be they were proud to be part of Newstead, and when students come here, they should also be proud to be part and to get in touch with these former students.
I'm reading through the questions, Mr Bournat. There.
Yeah. I'll have a quick look.
I think we're almost running out of time.
Okay. So I'll run through a couple of other things as part of the sort of the sixth form daily life. All students will have a form tutor. So you'll all be in a year 12 form, and that form will be your house as well. So for example, you might be 12N, 12 Nightingale, for example. And you'll have a form tutor, and they will be there as a daily point of contact to help you with normal issues around the school day. They're someone you can talk to if you're struggling, but they're also someone who you can share sort of celebrations with. You've done well in a test, do share with your form tutor. They're there to talk to you about your attendance and your punctuality and your uniform, and pretty much there to get to know you so that they can write a really good UCAS reference. Now, why are our sixth form tutors so important? Because most of them are the heads of department of the key subjects within the school, and that's been carefully put in place by me and by Miss Sword and Mr Blount. So the heads of science, the heads of maths, the heads of English are all in the sixth form. So I think it's worth sort of bearing in mind that when you come to Newstead, we're taking the details quite seriously. Yes, you're part of a form, and it's important that in that form you have a sense of community. You're 12N, you take sports day or any competitions, house competitions that you take part in. But I think also you have to realise we are thinking again about that time in which you leave Newstead successfully, and so building that relationship with your form tutor and them being who they are, having been form tutors in the sixth form for a number of years, so all of them being experienced writers of references. You're sort of well supported in that place. So you'll be part of a form. You'll have access to our sixth form administrator, Miss Roberts. Now you're probably already liaising with her around admissions. She does look after admissions. She also helps out with UCAS. She helps out with attendance and punctuality. If you have a doctor's appointment or if you have a driving test, you will talk to Miss Roberts. She looks after everyone. She looks after me. She looks after the teachers, she looks after the students, so she's a really good point of contact, especially for parents as well. So if you're unsure about something to do with the calendar, or you've got a query or a comment, then Miss Roberts can be a really useful point of contact. What else will you experience? You will have PSHE. At the moment it's only 3 times a week because of restrictions around gathering for periods of time, but typically you will get a PSHE delivered, and that's in form time still. You will have your morning and afternoon registration where key notices will be shared with you, and morning registration's at 8:35 in the morning and afternoon registration is at 2:10. So we see you at the beginning and the end of the day.
I'm thinking about a separate a designated area for food and things for the sixth form. They have their own canteen. Yeah,
they have their own common room, canteen. We love the sixth form so much. They got the library. They have IT access, which is in a school which is zoned. That's quite difficult to achieve. Open access to a study environment, to breakout rooms like the common room, to somewhere to eat, that is your own area to eat, to outdoor areas that are your outdoor areas. That's actually difficult in a school that's not designed for COVID restrictions, but it has been done. It has been done for every year group at Newstead actually, but year 13 and year 12 seem to have got the...
They've done well.
Got the best places. So, I think we took our year 11's cafe off them, I think.
So I think we're almost at 8 o'clock, so I'm just looking at the last few questions, which I think Mr Blount and Mr Lewis are now answering.
Okay.
Some questions about the sixth form block. So I don't know whether you want to.
That's not in the virtual tour. I mean, okay. Is there any way to view it? We would have to arrange a virtual tour of the sixth form block. I think obviously a lot of what we've done is we haven't had the longest time to prepare. The virtual tour of the main school is something that we will use for open evenings across the school. And if it hasn't covered the sixth form block, I think that's an oversight. So
No, I think to be honest, there's so much to cover, but the sixth form block has a very large computer room. I can't remember, Mr Bournat, it will fit more than one class in.
That's right. So it's got a computer room. You've got a double-sized classroom, 614, 615, which is a breakout room. It has its own toilets, it has its own reception area, and it has classrooms. It's a more modern part of the school. So if you've looked at the virtual tour, there are obviously varying ages within the school building. The sixth form block is one of the newest parts of the school.
It does feel like a special area with coat racks and Miss Roberts on reception, and it does feel. No, it really does feel. It has a university feel to it. I think
so. That's what we try to encourage, really. It's a very busy environment, and it is somewhere that's our own. We don't have the little students walking around. It doesn't mean they're not welcome, and we certainly don't want to isolate ourselves. And the sixth form will have lessons in the main school, and the sixth form common room is in the main school. So it's not like you're isolated from the main school. But the sixth form block is really a place where sixth formers, and given that they are adults, really, it is a place where they can be without sort of the comings and goings of a sort of younger Key Stage 4, Key Stage 3 students. So it gives them some sort of space that's their own, where they're very much treated like adults. I don't know if there are any particular questions about the sixth form block that...
No, I think that's, the big space in 614, 615 is quite impressive with the double classroom.
Yeah, it is, and it's something we use for our supervised study. So that's one thing I maybe haven't mentioned. Students will have their lessons, and they will have in year 12 they will have 4 lessons for A level for each subject, and then they will have private studies, and typically a student will have 4 private studies. Sorry, we'll have 4 supervised studies, and these supervised studies are where staff are in the room and they're ensuring that students are working in silence on their work. So a typical student will have 12 lessons a week, and will then have 4 supervised studies, taking them to 16, with the Wednesday 5 enrichment and the Friday 2 lecture. That takes them to 18, and then that leaves them with, on average, 1 lesson a day of the 5, which is a private study, where they are free to use their own time. A lot of students will go to the library or go to the computer rooms at that time to do their own work. It's typically not necessarily, unless they're in the library where it is silent. A private study might be where they do some group work if they've got a group project to do, or they're doing something together on the computer or that sort of thing. So we have, so alongside studies, we have the supervised studies, and then we also have private studies where we're trying to encourage a bit of independence, where students can manage their own workload and their own sort of behaviour really as well. So that is in most lessons take place in the sixth form block, I would say. Obviously the science lessons don't, because we have science labs, and maths lessons don't because we have the maths sort of block, really, maths building. But some of them, I know you teach in the sixth form block, don't you, Miss Salt?
I do. I'm also thinking of the design technology
block,
where we had a student last year who designed a robotics arm that was commissioned by the Ministry of Defence. So students also go to specialist areas like that.
Yeah, so the DT blocks, quite a vibrant place, and students will actually go there in their private studies. A lot of the DT students, just like art students, will go to art, and it kind of becomes a home from home for them. They, I think, in the DT block before COVID, they were allowed to make their own cups of tea and that sort of thing. There are a few things in DT that I probably should mention. So there's the EES scheme. I think it's an engineering scheme anyway, and that's what Jonathan was part of, and he produced a bionic arm, which the MOD did take an interest in. I think the bomb disposal unit was interested in this bionic arm that could be used to do things that they, I don't know, it was to do with, obviously it was like an arm and it picks things, and they liked it. So he did that through the EES scheme, this engineering scheme, which is you have to actually interview for. It's not easy to get on, and it's only a small group of students who will work with I think it's BAE Systems who it is.
We've actually got twice as many groups as any other school this year, so we've doubled it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't aware of that. So the EES scheme is brilliant. It's something that it's a bit like the Arkwright Scholarship in DT, lower down the school. It's something that if you're applying to university and you've been part of, it is something that people are really interested to see. Now, if you're not able to get on the EES scheme, because it's very limited in terms of numbers that can get on, and I'm glad to hear we've doubled it because we had quite a few disappointed students last year. There is an alternative as well, which is the Crest Award, and that is something that runs at a slightly different time, so it starts after the EES. So if you're unable to get on the EES, you can join the Crest Award. And again, we have designated member of staff, Mr Sharma, who's our science liaison officer, and he helps students with he sort of mentors students through the Crest Award. So there are plenty of things going on over in DT. And then art is going to be something similar. So sixth form students actually have a sixth form art room. The smaller of the two, there's the main art room where most of the main school teaching goes on, but there is a sort of side room, enough for maybe 10 students, which is designated to the sixth formers to go in so they can do their coursework and their A-levels studies over there. So and again, it's that quiet space that during the day that many art students need. So and we also have a music block as well. I know it's the other end of the school, but that's also there as well. And again, students are free. Mr Graham's really helpful, and he lets students go over there, whether they're taking music A-level or not. I mean, these days you have to take in hand wipes and you have to clean it all down afterwards. But he's more than happy for sixth formers to go over and use it unsupervised, because obviously he speaks to students to get to know them and understand that they're going to use the equipment safely. But there's drum kits, there's pianos, over their guitar. People bring, even students I think used to bring their guitars in. We had a few bands last year and they used to bring all of their equipment in and actually practice at school. So the music block is also somewhere that sixth formers can use, and that can be, I imagine, it's something that can still be done. I think booking is required and wipes are needed, but it's something that's not off the agenda.
Ms Bournat, I'm really conscious of time. It's about 8 o'clock, and I know you could talk all evening about the sixth form and still keep going.
Like lots of things I've,
But what I would say is I would just encourage people, if you have any questions, do email in, do keep going on the Q&A. I know Mr Lewis and Mr Blount are working hard in the background, or email Miss Roberts, our sixth form administrator. We'd be more than happy to answer them.
That's right, and maybe one thing I want to stress is right now you might feel like you know what A-levels you want to do. And also I think right now you might even have a feeling of where you want to go. But I want to sort of maybe stress from my experience, the worst situation is when someone makes a late application and they're a great candidate, but you don't have a place. Now we had that last year. So what I would say is be aware we have oversubscribed courses. We had 800 applications last year. Make your application. You don't have to decide. You know, you're looking at a range of different places. I would like you to choose Newstead because I think that what we offer here is better than anything else I can see available and anywhere else that I have been teaching. I'm really proud of what we offer here. I would say make your application, and I would say in terms of your courses, put down what you would like to study. Don't be afraid to put down an additional one. We're here to be flexible and helpful. Make your application, but if you change your mind, get in touch. Don't assume that, oh, we're not going to have a space. If you talk to us, I think communication is really important at this point in year 11. You've got a lot ahead of you. You've got exams. We've all got lockdown on the way. It's been a very stressful time, and I think those students who are communicating well will be the ones who are happy when they get their place at sixth form. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you would like to apply for. If you have any questions, and if there's anything that you think I didn't hear about, if they don't have this, this is a crunch issue, get in touch. Ask us what it is that you're interested to find out about, and we will let you know. We're not trying to force anyone into applying for anything. We're certainly not trying to. What we want to do is help you make the right decision. So not only if you're sure of applying to Newstead, then apply. If you're not sure, get in touch because there might be some information that you need. Don't be afraid to ask. I'm busy, but it's 8 o'clock in the evening and I'm still here at school. So I do love working at this place, and I do love helping young people make the right decisions. So get in touch. And I think what you'll find, given that you've got the deputy head teacher and assistant head teacher and the actual head teacher here tonight, everyone wants to help. So do talk to us. Talk to your form tutors. Talk to your current heads of year. And that's for Newstead students, and that's for non-Newstead students. Really do talk to your parents. Talk to siblings. Talk to friends. It's a really big decision. We are here, we are experienced, we help people make decisions, and we're flexible and we're confident and we know what advice to give. But I think there's also a lot of other people out there who similarly have good advice to share. So having a range of support is what everyone needs. And I think what year 11s need this as well. And this goes to the parents. Everyone needs to be consulted, everyone needs to be talked to. And students are making decisions which are going to shape their future. Now, parents often know best. That's absolutely true. I am one myself. But I think as well, there's nothing stopping you from talking to any teacher involved in your students' education to try and get the sort of best advice available. And I think a lot of people would say Newstead is a fantastic option for sixth form.
And can I just finish by just wishing everyone the very best of luck in their mocks and of course in their GCSEs, and we are looking forward to seeing the new sixth form, what will be the new year 12 in September.
Yes, thank you everyone for dialing in. I really appreciate your time this evening.
Many thanks. Thank you.